With an interesting design, beautiful wood selection, and secret hiding places, can this box become part of my legacy? Well, only time will tell. Now, I selected 3 woods for this particular project, and I used a variety of these 3 woods throughout the entire project. I used a poculi, which is an African wood, a maple, and a premium walnut. And the first thing I started with was to build some inlays for the sides and the top of this box. And with those inlays, I cut the poculi at sideways instead of lengthwise, really to try to help bring out the grain in this particular wood. And I really think it helped do that very well. Once that was done, I wanted to make sure that the inlays fit properly in the slots that I was going to cut. So I did a test sample to make sure that would work. And the test sample turned out to be perfect. But when I started to cut one of the sides, totally screwed up. Thankfully, the second and third attempt on these turned out okay, and I was able to cut and glue in the inlays. Now, inlays are kind of interesting. This is the first time that I'd ever done an inlay in a project. And I really had a lot of fun with it. I was very happy with the results. And I just couldn't say enough good things about it. I will do this in future projects as I build them. And one of the things that I also used on this project is Tidal Bond transparent glue, because I really didn't want any of this glue to show through when I glued it together. And I think this made a big difference for me. It really helped make sure that I saw the quality of the wood without having any ugly glue spots. And with some of the difficult glue ups I had on this particular project, I really needed that advantage to be part of what I wanted. Now, once the inlays were done, I decided to start on the drawers, because the drawer is really the foundation of the entire jewelry box. And I bought some drawer inserts, felt drawer inserts on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. And I built the drawers around those inserts. And from there, I built the frame and I built the box. And that was kind of, like I said, the foundation of the design. Now, with some of these drawers, it was a pretty basic design, as you can see here, just gluing it together. I love to build boxes like this, and you can see how that insert fits in there. And before I glued everything up, I wanted to make sure that would fit, and it did in all of them that I put together. And then I did a third drawer, and the third drawer actually had a secret bottom in it. It had a lip that held up the felt piece, and yeah, kind of fell apart on me there. But held up the felt piece, and then underneath it there was room to store really whatever you want. Mementos, cards, money, whatever it is. In this case, it happened to be a birthday card from my granddaughter. This particular project is something that I built for her, and actually showed it to her before I even released this video, because I wanted her to see it. I certainly apologize for that video shot right here. I kind of missed it a little bit, but you get the idea. You can see the false bottom, and underneath that you could see what we put in. And again, I wanted to make sure those inserts fit properly. And that bottom just fell out, but once I glued it in place, let it dry, it was perfect. Now, one of the other things I like to do with my boxes is I'll put these angled cuts on them and glue in pieces of wood. And I used it in this case to number each box, 1, 2, and 3. And you can see there was a smaller one there that goes with the other boxes, that is another secret hiding spot. And something that's kind of fun to know that it's there, but yet when you look at the jewelry box itself, you can't tell. One of the other things I did with these boxes is I took some sandpaper on a block of wood and just dulled the corners, because I wanted these drawers to come all the way out and slide all the way back in. And with those chamfered corners and the way I built the frame, it's able to do that. So then you can put a drawer out, set it down, look at some of your jewelry, and put it back in the box. Now, to take these 3 pieces of wood that I had and add an additional feature to the box, I did some inlays on both insides of the door flats that opened up. Again, something I'd never done before, but I wanted to try it. I love the combination of these 3 particular kinds of wood. And so here I just build a very simple kind of box pattern, if you will, with them. And then I built a second one in a herringbone kind of pattern. And once they're all glued in, I could run them through my drum sander to sand them down and actually cut them to size so I could glue them onto the frame. But obviously before that, I want to build the frame. And to build the frame, I started with some 1/2-inch Baltic birch, and I cut a very particular pattern there to put in these rails for my drawers. And you can probably tell by the sheen on this, I actually glued those in, and I oiled everything before I put the frame together, because I thought I'm never going to have another chance to really do that effectively. So I did that and then glued the frame together, and then started testing the boxes per se to make sure that they fit in the frame. And of course they fit really well. It turned out pretty good. I did have to do some sanding on the sides to be able to bring those sides down just a little bit to make sure they slide in and out, but I want them to be snug. Yep, a little tight, but I kind of like it. Once I finished the box, I now could glue the patterns on each side of the frame, and these again were for the inside of the box that you'll see later. As you open it up, you'll recognize these patterns, and there's 2 different patterns, one for each side, but using all 3 of those complementary wood. And I just think it gave it just a little more interest to the design of the overall box. Now, with that complete, I was able to glue the face on the front of the frame for the box. Now, I usually glue the whole face together and then glue it on the box, but in this particular case, I wanted to make sure that the drawers slid in and out effectively. And you might have seen there, I used a piece of wood to measure that lip, because what's going to happen is the box will slide in and the front face of the box will actually catch on that lip, and that's what holds it in place. I was very happy with that particular design and how it works. But one of the things with this is the front really looked very bland, so I added some of that poculi wood strips to the top of the face of the drawers so that they stood out a little bit more. And I used all 3 pieces of wood on the base of this as well. And as you can see, I'm cutting the base and sanding, and this is an effort to lift up the box a little bit and kind of present it a little better. I think it came out pretty good. Now with the back of the box, I didn't have a piece of wood that was wide enough, so I had to glue a piece together, which was not a big deal, but as you can see, it slid on me a little bit. Now some people I've heard have used just a little bit of salt to really kind of bite into the wood to hold it in place. I've never tried that before, I wonder if that works. And if you had some experience with that, I'd certainly like to hear your experience as to whether that has helped you or not. But once I glued this together and let it dry, I needed to cut a slot in the back, as you can see. And I wanted to match the grains of the wood so that opening face piece would blend in with the back of the box. Yeah, you're going to see that there's an opening there, but this again is the third hiding spot I have in this jewelry box design. Now here I'm actually rounding over the back ends of the box because I'm building a hidden hinge out of wood doweling, so you don't have to see the hinges on this. All you'll see is the wood doweling. And I did that on the back and then on the side pieces so you could understand what I'm doing there. Now for the top, I want to be able to add a door that opens up, that secret drawer underneath right there that will spring out, and then obviously I need to build up some sides. And with the secret drawer, I had this great idea with some springs and a little hose clip that would, if you punch it, it would kick it out. And I just thought that would be interesting. And as I glue these pieces on the side, I would slide some thin walnut over the top to hide that drawer so you wouldn't see it. And then I put another felt box inside that so that you really didn't know there was anything underneath it unless you looked at the back of the box. Thought it was a good idea, but it really didn't work out too well for me. I took it from concept to actually building all the components, tried it several times, and it still didn't work. And yeah, there's my design, almost finished. And you can see how that springs back. But it just got too complicated. So I went to something that I thought was a little simpler. I took some magnetic catches and just glued them in place and put the metal strips on the back of the secret drawer. That worked out great. It really was a very effective way of getting the same result, really. You don't have a secret button to push, but you have to push the back of the drawer to know that it comes out, because there's nothing that will tell you that it comes out. And as you can see now, I'm going to glue these panels underneath, or on top, I should say, of that secret drawer. And then I'll be able to put a felt box inside there. And again, I designed it such that the felt box just fit in there perfectly, like it was made to go there. So who's going to think that there's actually a secret drawer underneath? Well, if you're a 10-year-old girl like my granddaughter, I think you'll really get excited about that. And yeah, she was very excited about it. Now, one of the other things I did with this design is everything was glued together. I didn't use one screw in this. Well, I think you can see by now as it starts to take shape and you realize the design and the function that went into this, this is not a mass-produced jewelry box. This is something that's very unique and very interesting. Now, it's my hope that this is more than just a jewelry box. It's something that will hold memories, will hold milestones, maybe even heirlooms passed down from one generation to the next. The contents of this and the box itself is something that really will hopefully hold long-term value for my granddaughter and generations beyond her. Now, I glued the back on, used a number of clamps to make sure it was held well, and I also used blocks of wood for almost all of it between the piece and the clamps, because I just want to make sure that I don't damage it at all. So from here, I actually want to finish up the doors that open up, and what's inside those doors, I'm going to be able to hang necklaces. This one is for, small chain necklaces. And look, I never thought about this, but it's really pretty easy to build one of these. And this is how I did it, and then I just glued it in place. And believe me, I think it'll last a lifetime. I'm hoping it lasts several lifetimes. On the other side, I decided to put knobs for bigger necklaces. And the way I wanted to do that is I'd use the knob that goes on the front, cut the screw head off the screw, and glue the screw into the cabinet. And that way, when I'm ready to do final assembly, I can just screw those knobs on. And I really kind of liked the look of how that turned out. Now there's my measurement for my round over on the pieces that I would glue onto the sides of each one of these doors. Now I'm ready to make my hidden hinges out of wood dowels. Again, for me, this was something that I've never done before, and I wanted to attempt this. And if it doesn't turn out, I've wasted a lot of time and money. So, God, I hope it works. Well, I cut 6 pieces for each hinge. And as you can see here, I'm going to glue every other piece onto the other side of the hinge. And then I'll cut some very small pieces out of a steel rod that I was able to buy for a couple of bucks, really, to go inside of that dowel to be able to rotate when I rotate it. So I cut the steel pieces short, pretty short, and I sanded off the edges of this, and I actually put some paste wax on them to be able to make sure that they would rotate inside the wood. And I hope that lasts a lifetime. I'm not sure it will, but we'll see. Now you can see that I'm gluing every other piece, and I decided instead of gluing this whole thing together at once, which I think some people have done, for a guy like me who had never done this before, I wanted to glue one side and then glue the other. So I basically had a spare piece that I had doweled that I could clamp down to be able to hold the hinge in place, and I put these clamps on each of the 3 pieces that I glued to make sure that it would dry and be firm. And then I could take this door and glue it on the back, which again, this was it, man. If these doors don't work with these hinges, I got to scrap this project and start over. It was a little scary. And I used my ace cards to be able to create a little bit of a gap between the door and the base. And I'm happy I did that. I was hoping that would bring me some good luck. And then I basically just clamped these doors on the back and let it dry. And it was a very tense few hours to let this dry before I decided to take the clamps off and open the doors. Actually ended up waiting overnight before that to work. So it did work, and I was ready to finish this project up. And I used Danish oil to stain this. Just a beautiful, beautiful piece of wood, and I like how the oil brings out the grain in the wood. And then I decided that maybe I would put my name and the date on the bottom, because I'm hopeful that this might last multiple generations. I'm just hoping that my 10-year-old granddaughter enjoys it, and that as she gets older, maybe she'll learn to appreciate it, and maybe someday she'll want to pass it on to one of her kids.